Right, folks. On this episode, I have a friend of mine, Kieran O'Hara. He's also known as the Bike General, and just wanted to talk to about him with his experiences on cycling and training for cycling, and ways that he sort of looked at improving performance and everything. He's been riding now since 2011. He was actually in Australia, and he was introduced. Kieran, do you want to say hello and sort of tell me where it began, how it started in Australia?
Yeah. How's all doing? Thanks for me. Uh, Things actually started in Australia in a kind of funny way because uh, I actually didn't really know what a road bike was until my now wife moved out to Australia with me, and she was adamant to buy a bike so she could commute to work.
Mm.
So we went to shop together. She bought a road bike. I tried it before we put it back in the car. I liked it, and I went into the shop and I bought the exact same bike in a bigger size. So over the next couple of years, things developed in Australia. I, of course, upgraded my bike. Like everyone else, got a lot more serious, had to have all the kit.
Yeah.
And that's sort of where things began in terms of cycling for enjoyment or training or
Yes.
pleasure, as you want to put it.
Um, did you just get started in Australia? So how long were you out there? Was it just like more of the hobby then? There was nothing sort of um, you're not looking at anything competitive out there. You just sort of enjoyed it.
uh, at that stage, yeah, it was just more enjoyment and getting into it. And to be honest, I didn't really know many other people that cycled out there, so start was just on my own, just exploring around. I did join a couple of club rides then, but with my work situation there, I'd been working away, so I wasn't doing. It was a gradual build up. I wasn't ever doing as much there as I'm doing now.
Mm-hmm.
Things kind of really took off then in terms of maybe volume or the amount I was cycling when I moved to London in 2013.
Yeah.
Uh, when we moved,
Uh, yeah.
when
Go
we
ahead.
when we moved to London, we both decided to. First of all, we did a cycle tour around Ireland, the two of us
Yes. Remember
together.
that. Yeah.
You were actually one of our sponsors as Sonus.
That's Sonos. Yes.
Yeah, we did it as a fundraiser for Macmillan Cancer Support at Foyle Hospice.
Yeah.
So me and my wife spent 10 days cycling 200 kilometers per day around the circumference of Ireland with my wife's father in the support vehicle,
And yes.
leading us along the way.
What was the best thing about that? Because 2,000 kilometers, I mean, you must have seen some good days, some bad days, some horrible weather, some good weather, some beautiful scenery. Can you sort of give us highlights of what you sort of enjoyed on that?
Well, the best thing about it, probably that came out of it, was if you really want to test your relationship with your spouse, then you go cycling together. And to be honest, we didn't have a single, not even a falling out. We didn't have a single bad word to say to each other the whole way around, no matter how painful or no matter how hungry either one of us was. Uh, I had a little bit of a knee problem, so in the morning Amy would kind of get us moving, get us warmed up, and then after that we would I would kind of take over and either break the wind or pace us or so we there was still a big discrepancy in our fitness. I was much fitter than Amy, but we worked really well as a team.
Mm-hmm.
The only really problematic issue that sticks in my mind was one day we got a puncture and it was quite a cold day in Wicklow, and we had just had something to eat and we were really struggling. I think it was our 8th day, and I, being a bike mechanic, fixed the puncture inside about 3 minutes while Amy sat in the car, and she was almost in tears having to get out of the warm car so quickly and get moving again. But yeah, that was
It's
one
like
of the sticks.
a F1 pit stop just as quick as you
Yeah,
could.
that
You
was as quick
changed
as
it.
we could. It was.
Did you have, like, with that road bike that you had? Obviously, you can take the bike wheel off a wee bit quicker. There's like a snap on and off lever? Was that the
Yes.
type it was, or was it? It wasn't bolts, obviously, if you're changing
No,
it
no,
backward.
it was a quick release skewer, so yeah, it was easy to get off. So yes, it literally was Formula One style puncture repair.
Very good. That's excellent, man. Did you just have to enjoy the time on the bike? Did you get a time to kind of take photographs or enjoy the scenery? Obviously, you're exposed there. You can see a lot more on the bike rather than a car and stuff too. So, was there any sort of counties that you thought that was my favorite county whenever you were going around Ireland or?
Uh, there is memorable moments along the way and certain things you see.
Mhm.
Uh, Looking back on it now, I've now gone around Ireland 4 times, either on a bike or with a bike, part of a team. So I've
Right.
nothing that really stands out on that particular one. It was just more we weren't really rushed every day. We had the support vehicle to feed us. If we saw something nice, we stopped and took a photograph.
Hmm.
And we have a lot of photographs, so we often look at the photographs and we can pinpoint where we were and what happened that day
Yes.
and and things we did. So yeah, there's nothing really sticks out in my mind in regards of a favorite place, but
Right.
there's a lot of favorite moments.
What about the planning, the logistics of it and stuff? Did you be the type of person to kind of plan a lot and stuff? Did it kind of go
Yeah,
to plan and work out well for you?
well,
Anyway.
plan at that time compared to sort of my level of knowledge now, I was what you would call quite green. So
Mm,
I did use a lot of or a couple of local cyclists that had planned various routes around Ireland before, and they were able to advise me to of certain roads to avoid and certain places to stay and certain places that I had to see or had to go.
mm-hmm.
Uh, so yeah, we did do a lot of planning, and like everything else, we had to plan A, B, C, and D for the days things went wrong, which actually
Yeah.
didn't happen very often. The one thing that did go wrong in terms of planning and missing deadlines was the day we crossed the River Shannon on the ferry from Kilmar to Kilrush. Amy actually had to go to the bathroom, a wild toilet, we'll say, and while going to the bathroom, dropped her phone and actually didn't realize until we were actually at the ferry port, about to board the ferry. So we had to do a 30-kilometer drive back, find the phone, and a 30-kilometer drive back to the ferry, which meant that one day we were kind of racing to get to our destination that night.
Yes.
And during the entire tour too, we did a mix of camping and also staying with friends and family we knew
Mm-hmm.
along the route. So that was the only real night anything didn't go to plan. Everything else went seamlessly. Our average speed was bang on. We were hitting our destinations before sunset. We were never riding in the dark, so everything was planned pretty well.
Very good, man. That's great. Have you done any other charity tours like that since? No.
Uh, I haven't done any charity tours. I've done a couple of what I call charity 1 day challenges of
Yes.
riding all day non-stop.
Okay.
Uh, I always feel with the charity fundraising thing, there's so many people either in work situations or family situations and I'm all for charity stuff. People are always looking for something, be it for a 5K or a 10K or a marathon or a
Mm.
cycle or whatever you're doing. I always find with the charity things, if I go to do another charity event, I want it to be a next step up from the previous one. So it has to be a real challenge.
Yeah.
And I do have some in mind, but I haven't done anything of that distance since as a
Okay.
charity, right? I've done
Yeah.
that distances, but not a charity event.
Yeah. Very good. So back in 2013 as well, you were actually living in London, but you set up your own club. You got that much enjoyment out of it. You decided to open up a club. How did that go, or what was the real
So,
reason for opening that?
well, the club kind of came about from when I first moved to London. I was part of a triathlon club, and again, it was quite early in my maybe what you would say career.
Hmm.
I started taking charge of the weekly cycle events in this triathlon club, and I quickly found I sort of had a knack of of maybe organising people or keeping people in check or keeping people safe. And it's funny, this is where the Bike General name has came from. The then president of the club alluded that I enjoyed shouting at people and keeping them in line and keeping them strict. So this American club president, he decided to call me the Bike General, or the General.
Very good.
And the General then, over a few years of kind of processing and speaking to people, that then followed on to my business name. But in terms of the club, I kind of slowly moved away from triathlon, and I tried to fit in with a few other cycle clubs, but unfortunately they didn't really work for me. I found that they were on rides that should have been enjoyable and should have been kind of include everyone and be leisure rides. Everyone wanted to race all the time, and no one had any real time for socializing or looking after each other. It's about being back in the schoolyard, but
yes,
unless you were fast or unless you were good, no one spoke to you or you were chosen last.
Yeah.
And even one club, it went as extreme as I was once told that I couldn't ride with a particular club because my legs were too hairy. So,
and they are hairy. They are,
and they are quite hairy. As a serious road cyclist, you're not permitted to have hairy legs. It's not cool. It's not fast. It's not hygienic. Hence to say, I did sort of make that person eat their words whenever I left them in a certain place one day.
Right.
Hairy legs are still fast legs no matter what happens. So yeah, the club kind of came about because I could never find something that really suited me in terms of, training and socializing. So I gradually grew up or built up a group of guys that I really got on with, and we were friendly, and we always looked out for each other out in the road, and we understood the concept that even the fast riders can get a good workout and also look after the slower riders, which is a word I don't like using. Everyone's I don't like saying slow, but
yeah, you would get the.
So we built up as a club. Everyone had their input, and as time went on, we built up from 6 members to 10 to 15. I think we now sit at 22 members, which isn't huge, but it's the sort of thing that if it gets too big too fast, you lose your focus and it becomes like every other club.
True.
So we kept our kind of, we almost read our little mantra, if you will, and we said, look, we're out to train, we're out to have fun, look after each other. When the time's right, we can, as friends too, you also want to hurt each other. You get back to the cafe, you have a little laugh, and you have a little bit of abuse. But again, in other sports. But then the one that always stuck with me was if you went on a 50-mile ride and if the slowest person wasn't able to keep up after 20 miles, it meant they had to ride home for 30 miles alone. And I remember one particular Saturday, it happened to one of our guys in the group, and I just knew he'd get home, and he just, you arrive home on your own and you just feel down and demotivated and you don't want to do anything and you feel miserable. Mm-hmm. I've had it myself. And just after that, then we kind of really pulled together and we figured that out, and I don't think it ever really happened since.
Oh, very good.
We built up gradually.
Very good, man. And what are you doing within the club right now? Are you did you take a back step from it, or are you still sort of in the scene in some way? Because you're obviously living in Derry now. You're not in London.
I'm still active within the club, but what's happened over the years, I've now left London. It'll be almost 2 years ago. So we knew that was always coming. So I was kind of doing a lot of stuff within the club, kit orders and arranging rides and taking sessions and also doing repairs and stuff like that too. So over time, we gradually delegated different jobs to different people. We got a committee together, and then instead of me doing everything, we now have say 3 or 4 people doing those little jobs that I would have done. Which has worked out amazing. Like the people that have stepped up into those roles have really taken on board, and it's helped the club.
Yeah.
But it's also helped them on an individual level. Whenever you have the confidence to lead other cyclists, it really gives you an awareness then of how you're cycling.
Yeah.
and improves your cycling also.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's like the student teacher sort of analogy. All you have to really do is stay a week ahead of the people you're teaching, and everything kind of works out. So as long as I know what I'm teaching next week and I practice it then that week leading into it, then I'm qualified enough to pass on that advice.
Very good. One step ahead of the game. So you were doing like mechanic and stuff there in the club as well. When did you? Was it like a little bit later you decided to take it to social media and kind of promote yourself as a mechanic then, or how did that come about to the actual Bike General then? Whenever you went sort of more into
So
the.
the mechanicking kind of came about from I'm also a qualified engineer, and I my first experience of work was going to Australia, and I love my job. And then when I moved back to London, UK, I was doing the same job, but it wasn't the same atmosphere, and the construction industry just didn't operate the same, and
Mm,
it was driving me mad to a point that I didn't want to get out of bed in the morning to go to work.
yeah.
So this went on for a few months, and it eventually came to a head. I said, "Look, I can't live like this. Can't go on like this. It's making me miserable, down." So I think it was January 2013. I handed my notice in at work, and for 3 months I didn't do anything. I hung out with friends, rode my bike, and thankfully, having a very supportive wife, this was kind of taken quite well.
Mm,
So over those few months, I started repairing my own bikes, and it actually came a day that I couldn't repair something. I took it to the shop, and they couldn't repair it either. So the stubbornness of them, he said, "I'm going to get this fixed," and I did get it fixed. And things just gradually built up along that way. So now saying that, along the way, to fix certain things, there was things that I broke them even worse by trying to fix them. But that's sort of how
learning.
you learn. Okay,
Yeah.
breaking my own stuff. So then I was still part of the triathlon club at this stage. I started doing some repairs for friends in the triathlon club. And then from there, things kind of just, word of mouth got around,
Hmm.
and I started
Hmm.
doing more and more. And I started building my business gradually. It started off, I was working in a small shed in my wife's father's backyard. I was collecting bikes I would cycle my bike to your house, and I would cycle your bike back to mine for a
Yes.
year. When I was finished, then I would cycle it back, and we would swap back over. There was plenty of times where I was cycling your bike with another bike on my back, cycling through central London.
Cheers.
Uh, so then the shed then was expanded to a new shed, which me and my wife's father built together. Uh, the shed then expanded into my garage on a house that I bought in London, which then expanded into working. I started then renting a small space in another workshop, which really helped in terms of uh, getting my name out there more, and then also it can be a very lonely day when you're on your own
Yeah.
all the time. So just being in that, having another mechanic there to chat to and to look over things, or if you have a mental block and can't get something fixed,
Uh-huh.
and then meeting more and more customers, and that's kind of how it took off. And yeah, the social media and the advertising kind of thing just kind of went hand in hand as I started to expand.
Aye. Very good, man. I just it grew steadily, slowly, and um, it's something there now you're thinking of maybe starting again or.
Uh, but yeah, definitely, it is something I do want to start again. One of my biggest problems at the minute is similar to when I was in London. As I say, I gradually built up from small shed to bigger shed to garage to
Mm,
shop. My next step in London was to buy a shop, and to be honest, I did have that opportunity, but cycling, it's a real graft of a job. You do have to put the hours in, which I don't mind. You put the work in, you get paid almost like an hourly rate. But to step up to a bigger premises and holding stock and employing people, it's a big
mm-hmm,
jump.
mm-hmm.
So you can't really be a medium-sized business. You've either got to be a small, on your own boutique business, or you've got to be a large, spending £100,000 a year on rent alone in London
Yes.
kind of business
Yes.
to make it sustainable, make it a proper salary. So that was my sticking point, both finding a premises, finding the cash to get that business up and running. Uh, that was my next step, but it just never really came to be.
Yeah.
Uh, and I would say in dairy at the minute, if I was going to gradually build up something, I can sort of skip the early steps of working somewhere small.
Mm-hmm.
But again, you still need that cash injection to get stock in place and get things in place and pay for rent and that sort of thing.
Yes.
And it's a very tight business margin wise. You know, the
Yeah.
bikes that might be expensive to buy. Like I know guys that own bikes that are the cost of a family car, but for the likes of
Yes.
me to hold that bike in stock and sell it, your margins are very small, like 15-20% maximum.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of risk involved
Yeah.
in terms of cash value and that, and
Yeah.
not
There
a
is.
it's not a get rich industry. It's being a bike mechanic is really a lifestyle choice.
Yeah.
It allows you that freedom. It allows you to meet people, like-minded people, and sort of live in that what your essentially what is your passion,
Mm-hmm.
mixing your hobby and your work.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say because it's more of that hobbiness that
Yeah,
you were. It's really got you started. But
yeah.
that being said, on your timeline there was a Everest Boxed Hill and Leith Hill. There's a 24-hour challenge or something that you did one time. What was that?
So these are probably two of the stupidest things I've done on a bike. So they are stupid but enjoyable. So the concept of everything on a bike is the really simplest explanation I give is you choose a hill, and say for example the hill is 100 meters in height. You have to do repetitions up and down that hill until you achieve the same elevation gain of Everest, which is
Right, 8,000 something. Yeah.
8,848 meters. So, for example, Box Hill in South London, it's this was the first one I did. It was used on the Olympic route. It's about 5 kilometers long. I think you can gain 140 meters. So I spent the day doing 73 repetitions of Box Hill.
Mm-hmm.
And a long story short about the Box Hill version was with this challenge, uh, the other gain is that you have to be the first person to do that hill. So I was gearing up to do this hill, and on one of the social media platforms a few days before it, someone popped up saying, I'm going to do this hill tomorrow. And this was a Thursday, and I was actually going to do the hill on a Friday. So again, long story short, me and this other rider, we had friends in common. We spoke. Uh, I actually got up and left work, and I was going to do the hill that night to be the first person to do it. I was going to do it through the night.
Right.
And I went home, got all my stuff ready. I managed to find a friend in London who had a car. He was taking me down. And all of a sudden, my phone went, and it was the other cyclist who was planning to also do the hill.
Mm-hmm.
So we spoke, and I said, look, I'm going now. If you want to make it a race, we can have a race. That's fine. So hung the phone up. We spoke again, and I remember being in the house. I was just buzzing with adrenaline. I was like, I'm going to do it tonight. That's it. We spoke again, and I could sort of sense from him that he wasn't going, and that gave me even more energy to go. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. You're not going to be there. I'll be the first. So to skip down a bit, we ended up coming to an agreement, and we did it together on the Friday. I stayed in his house that night, close to the hill. We rode the hill together, and it took us 24 hours to get up and down. And it was a good day, but it was a very surreal experience. I finished at 3 a.m. My wife had come down to South London or Box Hill on the train, and at this stage we had no car. So the other guy, he was so exhausted, he got in his car with his dad, and he just left. He didn't say anything. And here we were, 3 a.m. in the morning, standing at top of Box Hill, which is more or less, if I had to give you a local comparison, it would be like standing in Locharbore at 3 o'clock in the morning. We stand in the middle of Nestwoods Forest at 3 in the morning. So we got a taxi, we got back to London, and that was it. But this
Did
then
you?
led on to I wasn't satisfied that it took us so long to finish this challenge, so I decided to do another one.
Yeah.
So I then set out 3 weeks later, and I chose another hill, which in fact was the harder hill, and I think it ended up taking me 13 hours on my own. It was a much harder challenge, and I had a lot more support from my friends, and that was another good day out.
Did you ever speak to that other guy you did the hill with, or was that just a?
No, it was just we were both. It was so tired that he just wanted to go home. It was
Yeah.
actually at the end we almost had a little bit of a fight because the thing was you had to do the same height as Everest, and he had miscounted and only done 72. And I said, look, we've got to do another one. He says, I'm not doing another one. He says, that's okay. I'll do another one alone. And lucky enough, I did the other one, and he followed me up. And we actually only succeeded the challenge by 4 meters. So if we hadn't did the last rep, we wouldn't have actually completed what we had set out to do.
How did you actually count that, or?
I was keeping count on my bicycle computer, and then also you can see on your computer elevation gain. So it adds up every meter you cycle up.
Up, yeah, I get you. Yeah.
But the problem is it's sometimes not very accurate because GPS can be, if the weather's bad or if you have tree coverage, you might not get an accurate GPS signal. So that can sometimes be off. So I had already calculated I need to do 73 times, and I kept counting. That's what got us there in the end.
Yes, very good, excellent. You also have been in Europe and Spain, haven't you? Doing the mechanicing and riding and stuff as well. What was that like, being away from London and being away from home as well? And I'd say the weather and the lifestyle would have been totally different for you there.
Yeah, the weather and the lifestyle were totally different, and have just become going back to Spain has become one of my main focuses.
Really?
This past while, I seem to drop it in a conversation everywhere. I do want to get back to it, but Spain kind of came about from, as I say, I got to that point in London where I either needed to do something different or take my business up to that, invest the money, buy a bigger premises, start employing people. I was kind of in limbo of what I had to do. So I decided I would take a job in Spain as a mechanic with a company called Freemotion and gain some more experience, meet more mechanics, see what other opportunities were out there for, say, doing bike guiding or arranging holidays for other cyclists. So just get a different way of life, and we had that opportunity to do that. So we spent 7 months in Spain, and we had a great time. It was a real eye opener of what else is out there. And just to get back on what you said, the main appeal is the weather. I was in Gran Canaria, and Gran Canaria is, not exaggerating, it's all year round sunshine. It's minimum 16 degrees, 17 degrees, and it's just fantastic all year round. It's an easy way of life. There's no stress. Everything is just simple. The only issue in that part of the world was that the salary, in comparison to, say, your rent or your cost of living, was actually quite low. So our salary or our rent would have been like 70% of your salary.
Wow.
And the reason for that was that Gran Canaria is a hotspot for Europeans to retire to. So, say, older Norwegians or Scandinavians, they would buy properties there, and with them being quite an affluent country, they drove the price of rent and various other services up. So it was an expensive place to live in terms of what you were earning, but you could also live cheaply. However, we knew we were there for a short time, and we decided to enjoy ourselves while we were there, and we just we did what we had to do without being too extravagant.
Yeah, that's great, man. That's a great experience. There was a couple of things I wanted to kind of take away from that. Like, you mentioned the business side of things that you were over there working with that company. Do you reckon you could implement stuff like that in tours and maybe expand on like mechanicking here or wherever you go? Could you take that experience and utilize it like here or London or?
Uh, yeah, it definitely could, because I did learn a lot of stuff out there. One of my main attractions for going out there was my work in London was predominantly, and still is predominantly, what I would call high-end road bikes. Your weekend riders or your racers. I never
Mm,
turned a bike away. I would service anything, but in London it was predominantly high-end stuff. What I hadn't worked on too much was mountain bikes and e-bikes,
yeah.
electronic battery bikes, and they're something. The e-bikes especially are something that are growing and are going to continue to grow over the coming years.
Mm-hmm.
So I gained that experience is something I've definitely brought away from my time in Spain, is I now know how to repair, or I now know what a good brand to recommend is. And meeting other mechanics too, you learn a lot of little tricks
Mm-hmm.
that to make your job easier, and you learn like different setups. If you were to have another workshop, you see things that you like and see things you don't like.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it definitely was a worthwhile experience. And as I say, it is something in my mind that long term I'm working back towards, is going back there, but going back there to start a business of my own.
Yeah.
I did a couple of test runs of like I brought friends out, and I brought them out on a sort of professional basis. I said, look, I'll put together your flights, I'll get your accommodation, I'll get your bikes, I'll feed you for the week, I'll wash all your clothes. And we did like a trial run for 5 days with five friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to them, look, you've got to be honest and critical and tell me what works and what doesn't work. And that was a good dry run for the potential to open a business and have a B&B and offer cycle tours and repairs
Mm-hmm.
and everything else. Because I'm kind of at a stage now, and again, not to brag or blow my own horn, but I I sort of feel like I can do anything in cycling. I can do the guiding and the repairs and the bike fits and the giving advice, where you get
Mm-hmm.
a lot of, say, guides, for example, that if you have a problem out in the road, they can't fix the bike.
Yeah.
So I feel I have a lot to offer, but I'm just at that point where I've got to, well, simple analogy is I've got to make my skills pay the bills. So I've got to
Yes.
really maximize uh, and enjoy it while I'm doing it. I've got to maximize my knowledge and what I'm good at, and this is what I'm good at,
Yeah.
is fixing
And
bikes
what you enjoy doing as well.
and what I enjoy doing. Yeah,
You mentioned a list there of stuff of what you're kind of good at and what you. I want to talk about training and your approach to training. You, I kind of wanted to see if you were kind of like, because you have that engineering mindset or thought process, using sort of gadgets and like you had on that bike, that elevation tool, to kind of keep you right. Do you use your heart rate monitors? Do you go off feel? What is your approach? And what would you say is probably the most important, or what have you learned from starting, and what would you recommend to kind of for anyone to do if they want to look after themselves for a long sort of period of time in cycling?
yeah. How long have we got? Have we got 4 hours in this?
I try and summarize it. Like
Yeah.
do your long story short.
This is the thing when it comes to bikes. Like before I moved away from home, I wouldn't consider myself to be a particularly chatty person. But when it comes to cycling and bikes and everything else, I often have to say to customers or clients or anyone else, look, if I'm giving you too much information or talking too much, just tell me and I'll rewind a bit. But uh, my approach to training was I tried a lot of different things. So my approach was try it. If it worked, put it on my list of things to keep at. If it didn't work, I didn't repeat it. So
Hmm.
I never really took too much of a record all my data, my heart rate, my power, my in cycling you get like fitness fatigue you get stress scores.
Yeah.
You can input all your data into certain programs or calculators, and they give you out TSS and CTL, which I'm not going to elaborate on because
Yes.
it's not what I know. I know of
Yeah.
it, but I don't know it
Yes.
well enough to give other people advice on it.
Yeah.
My approach was always quite sort of foundation and fundamental. Uh, One of the basics would be if I was training for something specific, if I felt good or if I felt like I was recovered and had no fatigue, I would go hard and I would destroy myself
Mm-hmm.
and really, really fatigue my body and put it under stress. But then on the flip side of that, what I did really well, which a lot of people don't quite get, was when I rested or if I was doing recovery, I I really recovered well. I recovered quickly because I didn't do anything. I didn't keep hammering the door and keep ruining my
Yes.
body. When I knew I had to recover and rest, I rested. And what that led to was uh, achieving my goals and getting fit quite quick. But I also, I can't remember the last time I had a cycling related injury. I've never had like a torn muscle or something that stopped me from cycling.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just from looking after my body and recovering properly and stretching a lot. I never get, a lot of guys will often say to me about getting cramp on a bike,
Yeah. Yeah.
something I've never had in my life. And I attest that to proper nutrition, both on and off the bike, without being too strict.
Yeah.
I eat well, but I also eat, I have a sweet tooth. I love my junk food. Like some of the stuff I've eaten, you can see in a couple of my race reports or my ride reports, some of the stuff I've ate over the space of a day is quite unbelievable. Uh, and with the stretching too, and implementing things like yoga and foam rolling, they all sound, the sort of thing you don't have time for,
Mm-hmm.
but something you really have to make part of your week. For example, if
Yeah.
I knew I had 10 hours to train, I wouldn't spend 10 hours on the bike. I might spend 8.5 hours on the bike and set aside an hour and a half for all the post ride things
Yeah.
that are just as important. Same in the winter. I always, over the last 5 years, I've been quite strict on doing a winter gym routine, doing certain lifts and a bit of core exercise. And you don't have to do much. I would often go to the gym and 40 minutes, I would go in knowing exactly what I was doing. And I'd also have an alternative if someone was either using that machine or it wasn't available. So I wasn't faffing around. I was just in, get it done, and back out. And
Yeah.
I got exactly what I needed. I got the benefit, and I was able to just progress from there and keep myself
I
ticking over.
I remember one client that I had who was a cyclist, and one of the dairy clubs, it might have been Foyle, and wanted to come with me, wanted to be stronger, wanted and what all I did was basically do a lot of core, do
Yeah,
more of the strength elements, squat, even bench, building up his back, his rows, obviously, then because he's a lot more core engagement with that,
yeah,
and the mobility, just working on hip mobility, lower back, stuff that can just really tighten up, even around the upper back and shoulders. I felt that he was really lacking in and mobility. So those just three things: strength exercises, just a simple 5x5 routine, and eventually just adding on the weight as your progressive overload.
yeah.
But this was someone who was a complete beginner in the gym as well. So
Mhm.
getting the foundation correct, getting the movement correct, engaging the proper muscles, and just knowing the general public. This guy was at a desk all day as well. So
Mhm.
um, knowing, having tight hip flexors, just knowing those wee things that I could implement. And he found a brilliant, found um, more power. He was saying even on hill climbs, or if they were going for a sprint, that he had more to give, just through those simple things.
Yeah.
What sort of did you do? I know you're kind of in and out of the gym, but were you following a template for strength, or was it kind of more reps, or what sort of? things were you doing in the gym?
Yeah, well, that was one of my confusions. On the early days when I started in the gym, my main confusion was exactly what you said. Should I be doing strength or reps? Should I be doing 3 by 10 or 5 by 5?
Mm,
And over the years, I found that the 5 by 5 worked better for me. I would do
yeah,
heavy weight and light reps. But again, it's a progressive build. At
yeah,
the start of the gym block, you might be leg pressing 100 kilos, and then you gradually build it up. And that also comes to it's great having someone there that can advise you and tell you. But most of my stuff came about from just self awareness and knowing when something was either too heavy or it
yes.
wasn't beneficial for me.
Hmm.
And I just kept it simple. I was just like most things. If you want to get good at something, people talk about the 10,000 hours. If you want to get excel at
Yeah.
something, you spend 10,000 hours on it. My thing was I just repeated and repeated and repeated the same exercise. I didn't do much variation.
Hmm.
Uh, I just made sure I hit the main groups and that just took it from there. And you can then also the repetition it allows you to track the progress. You can see over the space of a month or 6 weeks that 6 weeks ago I was lifting that and now lifting that. There's my
Yes.
progress. That's my motivation to keep going at it.
Yes.
Uh, and yeah, try not to overdo it and not push things too far. There is a time and a place to push things too far, but for me, lifting weights in the gym wasn't that thing. I never pushed myself
It
like
was just off season.
yeah, yeah. I never put myself in that spot of either getting injured or I knew I could lift more, but I never went 100%.
Yeah.
I was getting enough from what I was doing.
Hmm. And again, you mentioned about making the time to do the yoga and stuff. Like you could be doing or watching Netflix or something, and you could be doing simple trigger points with a trigger ball or a
Yep,
foam roll,
yep.
stretching as well, just yoga poses. Would you have done like the pigeonhole, or what sort of poses would you have done for yoga? Would you done a full body, or would you just
I
work on weaknesses?
again, it's something that's sort of developed over time. Like you'll have your different yoga routines, like your sun salutations or your different practices, like Ashtanga or Vinyasa. That
Yeah.
over the years, I've sort of tried different types of yoga, and then say if I was doing a post ride stretch, I would just incorporate in what sort of worked for me to
Yeah.
get a downward dog to really get my hamstrings stretched out, or
Hmm.
a pigeon pose to get my hip flexor stretched out,
Mm.
and just whatever felt tight, I would I would do at that time. And again, to say coming towards the end of the ride, I knew I was going home to do my stretch. I would start thinking about my stretch. Same
Hmm.
as going to the gym, I would know what I was going to do. I would start thinking about my stretch
Yes.
as I was coming to the house, so I knew I was going in. I was doing that, and just being efficient and
Again,
getting it done. And
basically going off the feel of the ride. Like one day would your back been tighter than your hips,
yeah,
or
yeah,
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 yeah, going off feel. I think that's a lot of people need to be more aware of how their body is and what needs to be worked out. Like a lot of people will follow a program and maybe follow it to the T, and maybe they're at a day where if they went heavy they would pull a hamstring or something in a
yeah,
certain exercise. I think working off feel, but there's that gray area also where, whenever you're saying, "Oh, I'm tired,"
yeah.
but there's that gray area of you're just being lazy as well. So it's kind of, yeah, how do you work that? How do you?
Well, for me, what I always would tell myself was a good sign of a confident athlete was if if you left that morning and you says, right, I'm going to do 10 hard efforts today, or I'm going to lift 100 kilograms. Say if you got into the first 1 or 2 efforts and you weren't quite feeling it, or you knew it wasn't doing you any benefit, that
Mm,
you should be confident enough in your ability and your progress and your current fitness to say, okay, it's not doing me any good. I'm going to do myself some damage. I'll just stop. I'll try it another day.
mm-hmm,
But you'll get a lot of people that'll try and push through. And again, there is a time and a place to push through
mm-hmm.
the pain, a certain type of pain, not damaging pain, more
Yeah.
gaining fitness type of pain or mental pain. But I say a sign of a confident athlete can step back during or middle of the session and say, look, it's not doing me any good. I'm going to modify it here. I'm going to just make it an easy day, have a stretch, have a little spin my legs. I'll try again in a couple of days' time. So that's kind of was my approach. So as I say, going back to what I said at the start, I knew when to go hard and it would be beneficial, and I knew when to back off.
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to do me more good in the long run. And then I also sort of got, when my training was really ramping up for an event, I'd often ask myself, and it might sound very cliche, and I'm not one for cliches or gimmicks, but I would genuinely often ask myself at the start of a session, what am I going to gain today from doing this?
Mm-hmm.
And what am I going to, how is this going to get me to my next level or progress me, or how is this going to be advantageous when I come to my actual event? And that really helps too. Just actually knowing what you're going, instead of knowing what you're actually doing, knowing what you're going to gain from what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. It's a big part of it.
Yeah.
I like the idea of using cycling for other sports, and you went to your triathlon training and stuff as well. You're swimming, you're
Yeah.
cycling, you're running. Out of those three, I mean, anybody in an off season, such as say a field sport such as soccer and stuff, like, would you be an advocate of them doing those sort of things to kind of help fitness and and adapt their body even in the off season? What's your thoughts on that? For using it as an addition to their specific sport.
Yeah, basically some cross training. I'm a big advocate of doing alternative sports that work different muscles and or the same muscles in different ways during
Mm.
the off season. Like I used to do, I wouldn't say a lot, but I would do some climbing, like
Yeah.
indoor climbing walls back in the day, and that helped quite a lot. Back when I was doing some of the triathlon work, like I could swim, but I wouldn't class myself as a swimmer.
Yeah.
Uh, and a lot of my friends in London will. This is something I get regular abuse about. Uh,
It's not the
and
hairy
also,
legs, is it?
it's not so much the hair and legs. It's more that some reason I sink and I have to work so hard to stay up in the water. I'd love to run too, but again, what comes with the running, in my eyes, is it has so much impact in your body that, and I've sort of told myself this thing so much that I put myself off running. It puts so much impact in your body that no matter how well conditioned you are, or no matter how strict you are with your regime and your rest and your stretching, as a runner, you're always going to get injured in some way, be it shin splints or foot problems or just putting pressure on your bones, your hips. And even recently, like I've again something I got recently abused about was I've run a fast, well, what some people consider a fast 5K about 4 or 5 years ago, and I went out recently and ran a 5K as part of this NHS 5 for 5 thing challenge with a friend, and I think I was 4 minutes slower than my personal best, and it was the most painful thing I've done in a couple of years. I was literally sore for a week.
Wow.
Just going this 1 5 kilometer run. So to get back to your initial question in terms of cross training for people in other sports, as a cyclist, I'm always going to recommend cycling because it's cardio based. You can control your effort level. You can pick your route. If you want to just an easy ride, stay on the flats. If you want to increase your high heart rate, VO2 max effort, you go and do some hills. It's got no impact on your body. Like you can incorporate your cycling into, say, having your errands, going to post office or go and cycle and seeing somebody.
Yeah.
And swimming's another one. Swimming is, again, no impact on your body. All you have to do in swimming is master the technique and actually enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And don't try and go to the pool and try and swim 20 lengths if you can't swim. Just go and swim 1 or 2, have a break. Everything is better than doing nothing. And just gradually build up. And the one thing is, I would say is, if you're going to start something out, don't try and do too much too soon. Because if you try and do too much too soon, you're going to A, put yourself off, and B, most likely injure yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so don't be measuring yourself against anyone else. Just gradually build yourself up. Take it easy. If you are going to start running, like I would say, go and, instead of running the pavements, go and running a pitch, or go and run the grass, or go and run the beach.
Yeah, the softer grass. Yeah,
the softer ground is so much better for you.
The one you mentioned, one word there with the swimming, which was technique. Now, what I find with people in running too, though, a lot of it is because of these running shoes, they've got a big thick heel. People are running heel toe, which is, in my
Yeah,
opinion, the wrong technique. Your heel shouldn't be hitting the ground. That I think it's something like 4 times your body weight. If as soon as your heel hits the ground, it shoots up through your knee, up through your hip, into your hip. So you are right in what you're saying, like the just the compound and the pounding that you're putting your body through. But there's a technique to running, and I see a lot of people who do go out run. They have that heel toe technique, and it's not good on the body. If you land in that first quarter of your foot, your
yeah,
heel kind of sponge just skim the ground, and then and your calf muscle is almost like a cushion or a spring where it's absorbing that impact.
yeah.
um and so like technique and stuff, for even for the running is a big part of the injuries that you were talking about. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, I know what you mean. Well, the big one you hear if you're out walking or if you're somewhere and a runner passes you, the one I often hear from maybe an inexperienced runner is, as you say, the heel strike first. What you
mm,
hear is you'll hear the front foot then slapping the ground,
yeah.
and again, I can't give massive opinions on running because it's not my area of expertise, but
Mm,
uh, there is different techniques both for different people and depending on what type of run you're doing. For example, if you were doing a 400-meter sprint, you'd be up on your toes nice and light. If you're doing a
mm-hmm.
marathon, you'd be flat foot striking and trying to avoid that slap on the ground and try and be efficient and waste a little energy. I think if I was going to start building up running, one of the first things I would do is I would go and I wouldn't say get my feet sized up, but buying the correct shoes is a big
Yeah.
part of running. Whether or not you're have a high arch or a low arch, if you've got
Mm,
a wide foot, the foot support's a big key of running. Something I have in my cycling is I have I have insoles in my shoes that support my arch,
mm-hmm.
and they made a massive difference to my cycling. Uh, Things like the position my legs were moving, the position my hips, and then also
Yes.
to stop my feet getting going. My toes were no longer going numb because the blood could flow evenly through my foot because the pressure was equal all around it.
Very good.
So going back to the running, yeah, the first thing I would do if I started running and I enjoyed it and I was gradually building up the miles, I would invest in getting my feet sized up properly, uh, possibly custom insoles if you needed something like that, and then build up gradually from that position.
Good advice, I think. Um, I think we've covered quite a bit about your story and what you've done, and I like. Is there anything on the training, or is there anything that you mistakes that you've made that you could rectify, or that you've learnt and that you would sort of give people the advice for, just as a final summary or anything like that?
Well, something I've always been quite competitive, and most things I've done over the years I've been reasonably good at. Maybe bar playing Gaelic football, I've won a few things, but I was never really a good Gaelic footballer. I played a lot of snooker. I was quite good at that. And then as I started cycling, I over the years I realized what my kind of forte was. And my forte is long distance cycling. My
Yeah.
forte is spending day after day after day on the bike, uh, riding. As I say, I've done now 2.5 laps of Ireland, uh, and I'd also learned that on one of the races I did, I kind of got a bit carried away, not from my own kind of understanding. I got carried away from other people telling me I was going to win, and this was my first time going around Ireland, and I only lasted a day and a half. I spent the first day I think rode 460 or 70 kilometers, and I got to Donegal, and my hands, I damaged the nerves in my hands so badly that I could no longer brake or change gears or hold the handlebars.
Right.
And lucky enough, I was close enough to home that my father could come and lift me and take me back home. Uh, so I'd say the big thing I learned is don't get too carried away. And if you're out to compete and win, then that's fine. But if you're out just to be there and take part, just try and enjoy it, and uh, don't get too hung up on being results. And I started telling myself, I would often decide if I was going to a race, I would say, okay, am I going to be a competitor, as in compete and maybe get on the podium or win, or am I going to be a completer? So what I learned from my transatlantic way ride around Ireland the first time was that I went and did it again 2 years later. I was much more relaxed, and I just did my own thing, and I was a completer. I completed it
Yeah.
after an initial failure. So yeah, takeaway would be just be confident in your own ability and decide what you want to achieve, and don't worry about anyone else. Or no, you can't control anyone else or some outside influences. So just do your own thing and try and enjoy it mainly.
Excellent. Just as you say that, and about the other influence and stuff, mindset. Do you do any stuff or read anything or follow anyone with which you would work on your mindset?
One of the things I was doing in the lead up to endurance races was I would read a lot of mountain climbing books. So I'd read like Touching the Void or John Cracker's In the Thin Air about the Everesting expeditions. And what this did for me was it gave me a perspective on what suffering actually was. You know,
Yes.
here's these guys, top of a mountain, they might only have one cereal bar in their pocket for 2 days. They're low in air, their feet are falling off, their nose is pure black. And I would often, if I was suffering on the bike, if I was having maybe a bad day or a bad couple of hours, I'd refer back to their pain, and I would say, look, I'm on a bike in the middle of close to a city. I can go to a shop anytime I want. I can stop at the side of the road and have a little lie down or a nap. You know, this isn't suffering. This should be enjoyable. And
Yes.
it really worked for me. So I'd read one of these books in the lead up to whatever event I was doing, and that was kind of my mindset. In terms of kind of being there and being in the moment and keeping myself motivated, I think back to what I was saying to you at the start. If I was having a particularly tough time, or if there was something I was struggling on that I had done before, I would tell myself, look, I've done this before. I know I can do it again. No matter how fit or unfit I was that time, or no matter how sore or suffering. But in saying that, again, back to the knowing when to push hard and when to do things, there has been times where I have been suffering so much that, at one time in particular, I've been suffering so much that I probably pushed beyond what I should have done, and I damaged my body permanently. I was cycling across France, and I damaged my Achilles tendons so badly that I couldn't continue to ride the bike clipped in with the special shoes. And I was adamant to finish this ride, and I still had I had 400 kilometers to get back to Paris.
Shit.
And so the stubborn side of me took my shoes off and put them up inside the back of my jersey or jacket, wherever it was. I went into Lido, in a small town in France, and I bought a pair of trainers. And again, this was coming from my knowledge base. I knew I could do some things to help myself. I bought a pair of trainers. I bought some duct tape, and I taped my ankle so that there's no dorsiflex or flex in my foot.
Yep.
And I lowered my saddle, and I pedaled the last 400 kilometers back to Paris on my heels, basically. And I kept telling myself, I've done this before. I can do it again. I'm nearly there. And that was one time where I sort of went too far. In hindsight, I wouldn't probably do that again, because I suffered then for months afterwards with damaged tendons. But a summary of that would be just know when not to push, and know when to respect your body, and know when it's worth it and when it's not worth it.
Yes.
And when you're going to do some lasting damage.
Yeah. There's a book I'm actually listening to you on Audible right now. I think you would like it. And there's a scenario similar to that. It's Ant Middleton, The Fear Bubble. And do you know the Celebrity SAS show?
Yeah.
So he's the commanding officer sort of on that. And in one of the examples he gave is one of the people in the SAS camp had to do laps carrying some boulder, but he was that far behind. He Ant was telling him to just give up. You're doing more damage than good. You're holding the team back. And this guy just kept going. And what he did was took the people who were lapping him, took them out and did different exercises on the side. But this other gentleman, he just kept going. He wouldn't listen to Ant. But it's that scenario with you there now. You taped up your ankles and stuff. You went on through it, caused more damage than good. That's whenever your ego, he's saying this guy kept going round, was causing his comrades to be in this pain. You just have to know when to stop as well, and not feed your ego. So that was an interesting point that that he brought up as well. So that I think you would enjoy that book.
Yeah, I say I regret doing that, but I actually don't regret doing that. It's another thing to add to my mental bank that, again, I knew I suffered that before. I can do it again. Not that I would want to.
Right.
But it will happen to me someday. Someday when I'm riding around the world and I'm suffering in the middle of China somewhere, I'll have to do that again probably.
Cool. But hey, thank you so much for spending the time here with me, going over everything you've done in cycling. Good luck with the Bike General again. People can follow you there on Instagram. Do you have a Facebook page as well, or?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Strava, Twitter, most of the social medias. I'm under the Bike General. So anything you need done, or I'm back up and running in Derry from yesterday. So if you need a bike repaired and you don't feel like standing in the shop,
give you a shout.
Yeah.
Excellent, sir. I'll be in touch. And thanks again for your time.
Yeah, no problem. Can I just say one more thing?
What?
Thanks to my wife for all the support over the years.
Oh yes. Oh, we can't leave her out. That's right. Good shout, lad. Okay. Thanks a million. I'll chat to you later.
Cheers.